What's up, everybody? Welcome to the second episode of the Tie My Skates podcast. I am your host, Drunk Gritty, and I'm alongside my co-host, Z. And today we have a very packed episode for you. We're going to be talking about the expansion draft, which is going to be coming out tomorrow night after you guys listen to this podcast. Around the league, the NHL Draft, some trade scenarios, and NHL free agency. But the best topic that we're going to start off with is Ryan fucking Ellis. Like,
Chuck did it.
Oh, baby.
He did it. He did the thing.
Chuck did the fucking thing. Like, holy shit. Like, we're recording this as it just happened. So we were just talking about it for like 15 minutes before we started recording, and this is like the most exciting thing that has happened in a long time, in my opinion, for the Flyers. Like, I don't remember the last trade that made me this exciting.
I mean, we were saying the JVR trade was like the biggest one in terms of acquiring a player that recently, but like that wasn't that exciting because we had him already. But this is huge. Fills a huge need for the team, and I mean, when it comes down to it, I don't think we gave up that much. I think it was a pretty good deal. If anything, Nashville lost a little bit after flipping Patrick to Vegas. So let's go over the deal.
Yeah.
We traded Myers and Patrick to Nashville for Ryan Ellis, and then Nashville flipped Patrick to Vegas for Cody Glass. So
that's a weird move in my opinion, that last part. I feel like the Predators should have stuck with Nolan Patrick, considering Duchesne and Johansson. Johansson's still on Nashville, correct?
Yes.
I've heard their names being talked about getting rid of, so why would they not take a shot on a young guy like Patrick? But I mean, for the Flyers, that was a fucking steal. We should read. That tweet that we saw today? This guy.
Yeah, go ahead.
Do you have it up? This dude, I can like paraphrase what he said. If we find it, we can shout him out later. This dude who covers Nashville and the Flyers basically thinks that first glance Nashville got fleeced, mainly because we didn't have to give up the 13th overall pick in any form in that deal, which I agree with personally. I mean, not having to give up our first round pick in that deal is incredible. Like, Chuck, bravo, dude. That was an incredible deal, and I'm excited.
Not having to give up the pick and not having to give up Frost or Sanheim, because in my opinion, I wanted to keep Sanheim over Myers. I think Sanheim has a higher ceiling. I think Sanheim's a better player today than Myers is. Together last season, they were questionable, but we're filling out the decor now slowly. So we got Ellis and Provy at the top line. Ellis is going to play all situations. He's going to be the top D guy on power play 1, which we've been, needing for a little bit. Provy hasn't really filled that role, and, Ghost has been in and out. So I think we still need, a veteran second line guy who can play the right side to play with Sanheim. And then, you go Braun, York on your third pair. If York makes the team out of camp, which I'm hoping he does.
He will. He definitely will.
And then you got your 7 and 8 guys, whoever, Morin and Hag, which, like, whatever.
That's probably what will end up being Morin and Hag. You're right there. I mean,
Zamula,
the Dominoes.
He'll probably start in the AHL, but Zamula is another guy who could come up later in the year.
Yeah, or he could be a trade piece. But yeah, you're right. Like, the Dominoes have started to fall. We filled the top line hole that we clearly had, and
top
pair hole, and now we're just going to see what happens. We got the trade freeze that started today, as we're recording, 7/17 at 3 p.m., and then it opens back up Tuesday at 1, I believe. So we got a little trade freeze, and Chuck pulled it off right before the deadline. It's impressive.
I mean, this is the piece you needed. You needed the number one D-man. Which is Ellis still a number one D-man by himself? Yeah, probably. But he's definitely a number one pair with Provy, a 1A, 1B, which, the parts are greater than the sum. I don't know the quote, but you know what I mean. Yeah. The sum is greater than the parts. Whatever. Fuck.
That was good. I mean, both of them together are like an elite D pair. It's kind of similar to what the Islanders have with Pelech and
Pulock.
Pollock and who?
Pulock and Pelech. They're the same person.
Jesus Christ.
No, they're two different people with the same name.
I keep forgetting they have like that's so weird. Like how do their announcers?
I wouldn't even say that.
How do their announcers like separate that in their head?
I wouldn't even make that comparison because I think like Provorov and Ellis by themselves are better than Pulock and Pelech, but Pulock and Pelech together are better than Provy was on the first line with Braun or whoever he was playing with. You know what I mean? They're a good D pairing, but alone they're probably they're not number one D men by themselves. But I think that Provy and Ellis are number one D men by themselves and together, and it just this was the main thing we had to get done. If he went out and he traded for like a third line center before the expansion draft, people would not be as satisfied as they are right now.
I think it's worth mentioning that the last 30-year-old defenseman the Flyers acquired from the Nashville Predators was Kimmo Timonen. So could Ryan Ellis be that Kimmo Timonen type role for the next 8 years in Philly? I think he could. At least for the next 4 to 5 years, he's going to be a part of this team.
I think they're kind of similar players too.
Yeah,
in terms of
smaller guys,
the PP and the PK.
Good puck moving guys. They can play both sides of the ice. Yeah, it's a very good comparison. We have a long history with Nashville when it comes to trading, it seems.
So what does that leave us now? So we have, I want to say, 3 holes on the team left. So second line D-man to play with Sanheim, which we'll talk about some options later in the episode. Third line center, which maybe we have, if we, keep Morgan Frost, maybe he can step up and fill that role this year if he doesn't get injured. And I still think we need another scoring forward.
And a backup goalie. For naming all the things.
I feel like backup goalie will be a little bit easier to acquire just because there's so many of them. But
yeah, that'll be easy. That's not something I'm worried about. Chuck will just find a good netminder to be behind Carter.
And do we want a backup goalie or do we want a guy who
can challenge Carter?
Can challenge Hart?
I mean, I don't know. I think there should be a guy that's good enough to play in case Carter's struggling.
Yeah. Like if Carter needs to take a week off, which he needed this past season, and just Elliott could not play that many games in a row, especially in March. But if Carter needs to take a week or so off, we need to be confident that the backup can handle those games and we can get wins. So someone like Korpisalo or Ullmark.
Yeah.
Would out of
I mean, as long as you're not spending more than $3 million on the dude, I'm okay with whoever they get. That's not really my top priority right now.
Ullmark had a .917 save percentage last year on that Buffalo team.
That's impressive.
Is that not absurd?
That's crazy for how good Buffalo, or not how good, how awful Buffalo was last year to have a goalie that performed that well. That's pretty impressive.
20 games played, 20 starts, 9 wins, 6 losses, 3 overtime losses. For playing on that Buffalo team, which was they lost 18 games in a row. What was it? What was the streak that they broke against us? It was something ridiculous.
It was embarrassing. I blacked out the season. Let's stop talking about the season. Let's talk about the exciting stuff that's happening right now because I'm actually happy for the first time as a Flyers fan in a long time.
It's exciting, man. We made the move we needed to make. The one we really needed to make. If we went through this offseason without acquiring a number one defenseman, it would have been a failure. People would be screaming for Chuck's head.
Right.
So the first move he makes is the move we needed to make.
And to make note, it wasn't Dougie. It wasn't Seth Jones. It was probably the smarter option out of anybody else. We've been connected to Ryan Ellis for quite a while now, and I just think that it was a good deal. I'm surprised it happened right before the expansion draft trade freeze. That part's surprising to me, but now it opens up the doors for it. They fucked up the expansion draft a little bit for Seattle. Seattle probably had an idea of what they're going to do, and now we're going to protect another player.
Yeah, so let's go into that. So assuming that they were going to protect Patrick before, now that they traded him, there's an open forward spot. So given that Chuck has already said he's talked to Jake about leaving Jake exposed and possibly trading him if he doesn't get picked, does that open spot go to JVR, or does it go to a lower level player like NAK to sort of limit Seattle's chances of taking a guy that's not going to shed a lot of cap and maybe force them to take either Ghost, JVR, or Jake?
Right.
Without making a sweetener or side deal.
Yeah. Well, as of right now, I'm thinking it's going to be JVR. While you guys are listening,
I think so too.
While you guys are listening, you guys are already going to know who we protected, but we're both pretty positive it's going to be JVR, and then they're going to expose Voracek and Ghost there. So, I'm thinking
JVR too. It makes the most sense, and losing Ghost for nothing hurts a little bit less than losing JVR for nothing.
Right, and it was a topic of discussion last week, JVR or Voracek for more trade value, and like I said Voracek on the last week's episode, but I'm starting to lean towards JVR just because of that contract. So like protecting him, and then we either keep him or we use him in a trade and get some value out of him. Who knows?
Yeah, it's the term on Jake's deal. It's the term left. The money's big too, but if Jake had 2 years left, you could probably trade him and retain a little bit of salary and get a good player back. But I think you can trade JVR without retaining any salary, and we can go over a little bit later some trade scenarios in terms of who we would trade Jake or JVR to and what we would get back to fill those holes.
Yeah. So that'll be a topic. It'll be coming up in a little bit. Is there anything else we wanted to talk about expansion draft-wise, or do you want to move to all the trades that have been happening?
Let's go into around the league, because there's been there's a couple trades from the past week that we haven't touched on, and there's some trades that have happened the past couple of days, including today, that were some big trades that change a lot of things for the upcoming draft. So
cool. All right, so we're on to around the league. I'm going to read off a couple of the most recent trades that have happened, some of the bigger names that have been traded in the past couple of days. The Edmonton Oilers acquired Duncan Keith and forward Tim Sutherland from the Chicago Blackhawks in exchange for defenseman Caleb Jones and a 2022 draft pick. The New Jersey Devils acquired Ryan Graves from Colorado in exchange for Mikhail Maltsev, I hope I said that right, and a second-round pick in the 2021 draft. And then recently today, the Red Wings acquired Nick Leddy from the New York Islanders in exchange for Richard Panik and a second-round pick in the 2021 NHL Draft. And then also, Minnesota bought out the contracts of Ryan Suter and Zach Parise. Out of those trades,
there's a couple other trades that we missed. Vancouver traded Jason Dickinson, Vancouver acquired Jason Dickinson from Dallas in exchange for a third-round pick in the 2021 draft. The San Jose Sharks acquired Aiden Hill, goaltender from Arizona, in exchange for goaltender Joseph Coronar and a second-round pick in the 2022 draft. Another sort of big one is Toronto acquired Jared McCann from Pittsburgh in exchange for forward Philip Hollander and a seventh-round pick in the 2023 draft. And the Rangers acquired forward Barclay Goodrow, who I believe is going to be UFA at the end of the month.
Yes, he is. From
the Tampa Bay Lightning in exchange for a seventh-round pick in the 2022 draft. And Rangers also traded Brett Howden to the Knights, the Vegas Golden Knights, in exchange for defenseman Nick DeSimone, a fourth-round pick in the 2022 draft. So
that's a lot of movement.
Out of these trades, you want to go these deals, I guess we'll call them, because there were some buyouts as well. Not Jeff Skinner. Who else was? Oh, Keith Yandel was bought out by the Florida Panthers as well.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that one. Out of these, there's a lot of movement in the past couple of days. I feel like the biggest one was probably the Devils acquiring Ryan Graves, in my opinion. I think that move was very good for New Jersey, and I saw on Twitter the day of, it kind of ticked off a lot of Flyers fans. They were like, why isn't Chuck doing anything? Well, now you know why Chuck wasn't doing anything, because he was secretly behind the scenes acquiring Ryan Ellis.
If we're going to include the Flyers trade, that's the biggest trade.
That's the biggest trade yet. I don't think any of these trades, buyouts, whatever, hold a candle to what just happened.
And you got to give it to Chuck. I know we still have a lot of offseason left, and there's a lot of moves to be made, but you got to give it to the guy for delivering.
He did it. No one thought he was going to, Everyone's been shitting on him day after day, and he finally did it. And he made probably
Apparently
the best move.
He was actually working those phones.
Yeah, he was. He wasn't sleeping. He wasn't chilling at home watching TV or movies all day. He was working the books, using that phone. I mean, you're right. That's the biggest trade of the offseason so far, without a doubt. And it was our GM that pulled it off.
Yeah, I mean, you want to talk about the Edmonton trade, a lot of people shit on the Oilers for, having some leverage in that deal in taking on Keith's cap, and, they sort of lost the deal in terms of giving up Caleb Jones and what was it, a third?
I think it was a third.
2022 conditional.
Yeah.
And Chicago not retaining any cap on that deal is kind of crazy, but I mean, he's a veteran D-man who I don't know how much he has left in the tank, but the Oilers have been struggling, I
mean, what I heard,
defense and goaltending.
I heard
we know they have the forward depth and the scoring, so.
Yeah, I heard that Connor McDavid wanted Duncan Keith on the Oilers, so I think that's why the deal happened. I mean, Duncan Keith probably doesn't have much time left in the league, so to me, it's a bad deal for Edmonton. But if Connor McDavid says he wants a player, I think you should probably listen to him.
And Stan Bowman, the GM of Chicago, who's made some bad deals in the past, trading Panarin, trading Saad, trading back for Saad. I think that there were some other players he traded to Arizona, then traded back for. Like, he's been a very indecisive GM and has made some horrible moves in the past. But I think this move actually helps their team, if not for the fact that they, have a better chance of getting Seth Jones now with acquiring his brother, which I guess that was the whole, Scotty Niedermayer, Rob Niedermayer deal, which it worked for the Ducks back in the, late 2000s. But the asking price for Jones right now is just ridiculous. Like, I think Elliot Friedman reported it would start at Doc and maybe include Boquist, who's a good young D-man on their team, or DeBrincat, which is like, I would not give up any of those players for Seth Jones.
That's more absurd than the Flyers
an
mock trade that people have been suggesting. Like, that's an insane price for Seth Jones, who doesn't want to play in Columbus.
I was not going to give up, or if I was a GM, I would not have given up Sanheim, Frost, Zayd Wisdom, and picks for Jones, even if it came with a 7-year deal or 8-year deal, whatever. That was just like sort of too much for me.
Exactly. And I don't think Chicago should do a deal around Kirby Dach or anything like that either. Like, they're asking way too much.
The other thing is Chicago's not like one defenseman away from contending. Like, they're in a rebuild and they have great young players.
So why not let those players grow,
Yeah, and I don't know what the thinking is there. But I think the ask is just so high for Jones right now that they might have to keep him this year or trade him for less, or trade him at the deadline or something, because they need to get rid of him, because they can't lose. Kekalainen can't lose another top-end player for nothing to free agency. Happened with Bobrovsky and Duchesne and Panarin, and the list goes on. But they got to lower their ask on this guy.
Yeah, I mean, he's
especially if it doesn't come with a contract. And for Seth Jones, yeah, I'm not signing a contract. I want to go to free agency in a year where hopefully, the cap will grow a little bit. There'll be more deals going on. You'll get more money. I would, or you want to go play for a contender if it's going to be, a 1-year deal.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's looking to play on a team that's close, if not ready to win a Stanley Cup right now. And if he waits a year for free agency, he's going to get an extra $1 or $2 million on his contract. So why not? Does he have a no movement clause or no?
No. So that's what I was going to say. You'd see a guy in his position maybe not having as much leverage, but the fact that he has 1 year left on his deal, he has all the leverage because they're only going to give up assets for him if it comes with an extension, and he gets to choose which team he wants to sign an extension with. So.
And what has he said? Dallas and Chicago.
Yeah, I think Dallas and Chicago were up there. I got to think Colorado's in the mix, but they probably can't afford him. They have to sign Makar. They have to re-up McKinnon in a few years. They have to Gabriel Landeskog's a pending UFA. They got a lot of deals they have to make, and I doubt McKinnon's going to take another team friendly deal.
I mean, if he wants to win, he's kind of like Crosby in that way, where he cares about winning more than he cares about money. Crosby's been taking team-friendly deals his whole career, and look where it got him. 3 Stanley Cups.
Team-friendly deals, but still making over 8.
Why would McKinnon not make over 8? He's worth like 12.
Well, what's he making now is what I'm saying. You know what I mean? He's making 5 something.
We can look that up real quick.
6.3.
6.3 million? Okay.
Yeah.
It's a little light.
Yeah. No shit. he should be making 11 or 12.
He's arguably the best player in the league besides like McKinnon. I mean, Jesus
McDavid.
Christ, McDavid.
Mick Jesus Christ.
Speaking of around the league topics, I think it's kind of funny how one of Chuck's biggest moves in his career in Minnesota just got like ended like that.
Kibosh.
Yeah. Just got,
and almost 10 years to the day. I think maybe it was a little bit after the signing because it was a July 4th signing, I believe. And the Flyers were in on
both of them.
and Suter.
I think,
which that would have been interesting to see how Holmgren would have done that.
I think if I remember correctly, there was rumors, or maybe it was like reported. It was so long ago that I'm just trying to remember this, that the Flyers offered the most money for Suter and Parise, but they both decided not to come here because they wanted to go home. I think they're both from Minnesota.
Yeah, they're from Minnesota originally. I think both their dads played for Minnesota. Correct me if I'm wrong. But
I have no clue. I don't keep in touch with players' parents.
One thing I would just like to point out, can we give some respect to David Poile right now? For these D-men we're talking about were all Predators picks.
Yeah.
Jones, Suter, Ellis. I mean, if you throw Weber, Yossi, Ekholm, like Sam Girard, who plays for Colorado now. Like, what is going on? They have a D-man factory over there. It's insane.
I don't know how they do it. They're just very good at scouting D-men, I guess. Flyers should hire some of their scouts.
Crazy. Phil Myers, throw him in there.
Yeah, we'll see.
I'm interested to see who's going to be on a line with.
He'll probably play.
So what's their first line? Yossi, Ekholm. Ekholm plays right D.
Yeah, that's definitely first line. Ellis is gone. Who's their third guy now? They don't have one. They don't. Do you know the other guys?
I'm pulling up their roster now. I'm trying to.
I mean, I think they before Ellis was traded, they probably had some of the best defensemen in the league on one fucking team. That is impressive. Tip of the cap to David Poile.
Yeah, pretty impressive. Matthew Benning, David Ferentz, Eric Gudbranson, who's a UFA, Ben Harper, Dante Fabro. So not really. They're kind of light on the bottom 2 lines now, bottom 2 pairs.
They're in a mini rebuild.
Yeah,
they're trying not to completely
they've Mark
overhaul.
I can't even say his name. Borowiecki.
Defenseman.
Yeah, he's on IR though. Remember he lit TK up when he played for the Senators up the middle.
Yeah.
When Braun sent him a suicide pass. Then there was 4 fights that game.
Broad Street Bullies, baby.
Yeah, bring him back.
All right. What do you say we move to the NHL Draft now?
Yep.
All right. So I think it's obvious from a draft perspective that most Flyers fans, including us, do not want to have that pick by the time draft day comes about.
I mean, you'd be surprised. A lot of people out here still want picks.
Of course.
Which
That's
is
how you
cool, dude.
build a team.
We need someone who's going to help the team now, though.
Yeah, but
we were in a limbo of sort of the past 2 years, I want to say. I mean, you can say the 2019-20 season was more of a push for it, but we're still in are we rebuilding or are we going for it? And I think this Ellis trade has now tipped that more towards we're going for it.
So we have to trade
if we're
this
going
pick.
for it. No, I'm not saying we have to. I wouldn't mind picking a guy, but he's going to be in the lineup in 4 years?
Yeah, I mean,
when G's done.
And this draft isn't really too top heavy. It's kind of a bleh draft, I would say.
There's no huge names, and there's a lot of these guys didn't even get to play that much last year.
Yeah, I would compare it to basically the year we drafted Nolan Patrick. There wasn't anybody super crazy at the top, but there's going to be some good players, but not Austin Matthews, McKinnon, like those kind of
just
guys.
our luck. We're like around the like Eichel, Matthews, McDavid, Line, like all those names, and then we get the draft with Patrick and Heischer as the 1-2.
Yeah, that's Philadelphia
Flyers
sports
luck, baby.
So I know we want to trade it, but I think we should gloss over kind of some of the guys that are around there. I have a couple guys written down right now. Mason Mctavich, who is a center. He's like a big, strong guy. Like he would fit well on this team. The only problem is I think he's ranked a little higher on most people's boards than the Flyers are picking. So there's a very strong chance he may not be there. But if he does end up falling to 13 and the Flyers hadn't traded their pick yet, that's a guy like I have my eye on. I think he would be a great fit on this team. Do you have any guys?
Yeah.
I have a couple more.
I mean, Cole Sillinger,
Yep.
who you had
Yep.
on your list. Just I mean, like, honestly, haven't seen the guy play, haven't seen any highlights, but just reading the description of he was a USHL Rookie of the Year, and he's an offensive player with a great shot. So
there you
and
go.
play center. That's like, can we just draft a guy who can snipe?
Yeah, I mean, we need a scoring player.
Not even snipe, just shoot first, which like.
So basically,
we
like
caught a glimpse of Wade Allison doing that.
Yeah,
so
basically, if Cole
Sillinger
Sillinger or Mctavich is there, I want Mctavich probably more than Sillinger because he's like a bigger guy, and to me, like I want my centers to be big, brooding players, kind of like Coots or Hayes is. I know, like maybe Hayes doesn't play as big as he is, but like I want a bigger guy that can, and Mctavich can play the full length of the ice game. So, yeah, Mctavich and Sillinger, both good centers that hopefully would be around our pick, would be pretty fire picks for Chuck. I also
one thing to mention,
Yep.
real quick, is that in the pre-draft presser from last week that Chuck and assistant GM Brent Flair held, they did mention that if they do take the pick, they're going to take the best available player regardless of position. So
as you should. I mean, this is
Yeah,
a
I mean, which should
business.
happen
You
every
take
year.
the better asset that's going to have more value.
So if that's a goalie like Casa or Wallstat,
Yep.
if they drop to that position, we may be choosing a goalie in this draft at 13.
I was going to say Casa as well. He's the best goalie prospect in the draft, and I mean, we have some decent goalie prospects, but I think Casa would probably like fly close to the top of that list almost immediately. And it's never a bad thing to grab more goaltenders because who knows?
I mean,
like Carter Hart could flop. I personally believe he's not going to flop. I think he's going to be a top 10 goalie in this league for a long time, but can never be too careful.
I mean, I guess you don't want him to be comfortable. like you never want a player to be like
You also
comfortable in their role. You want them to feel, competitive or feel like if they.
But you also want you also want Carter to know it's his net. Like it's your net, dude, but it's your net to lose as well.
There's nothing wrong with some competition, though, is what I'm saying.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
You don't want a guy to feel complacent and be like, hey, it doesn't matter win or lose. I got my spot on this team. But you do want him to be confident in net and know it is his net. And I think that's a big deal with goalies, and I feel like that's why a lot of tandem goalie situations don't work out as planned.
Unless you're Vegas, that's probably been
Yeah,
better
but did that work
experiment.
out? No, because they flip-flopped and, Galaxy brained it at the end where, Laner won game 4 or whatever, game 5, and then they went back to Fleury, and then they went back to Laner, and it was just like,
I mean,
you put a cold guy in.
Maybe it didn't.
The hot guy loses his streak, and then you flip him back, and then
maybe it didn't ultimately work out in the end. But like to me, like I think it was a pretty good experiment. I think one of those guys is going to be moved, but I mean, they've been one of the best teams in the West, and they're always in the Stanley Cup discussion since they came into the league. So, I mean, it didn't really fail.
I was hearing, I think it was on the 31 Thoughts podcast, but I was hearing the Devils might take a stab at Laner, and like
I heard that as well.
Great, dude. Another like top end goalie in our division. Fantastic.
Yeah, and then they have what's his face, Blackwood.
They're considering moving him apparently if they acquire a veteran goalie like Laner, which is
Devils
just crazy,
fans on Twitter love to talk about how much better Blackwood is than Carter Hart, and now they're going to trade him. Get the fuck out of here, Jesus.
I'm just telling you what I hear.
I know. It's pathetic, though. I don't know why they would do that. I kind of like Blackwood, even though I also like to shit on Devils fans that like him more than Carter.
Yeah, so there's some names out there for the Flyers to pick at 13. Would any of us really be mad if we traded that 13th pick to acquire another defenseman or a third line center or some sort of scoring winger? No, I don't think you could be mad for that, especially in a draft that is more of a crapshoot than any other draft has ever been. But, there's some good players out there that we can acquire and, use as an asset in the future.
Of course, yeah.
If that's the decision.
I would not be mad if we ended up taking a player.
I mean, now that we have Ellis, I'm kind of... It's going to be hard to piss me off the rest of the offseason. Unless we get rid of more guys that I like.
Unless you just make a really bad trade after a really good trade. Could always happen.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like one thing that could piss me off too is if Seattle takes Braun or NAK. That would probably piss me off a little bit.
That is very true. I would get
and
really
now that I said
that
is going to happen.
It might. I don't think it will, but it might.
Never doubt Dave Haxtell.
That fucking guy. One more thing I want to talk about before we move into trade scenarios about the NHL draft. So Owen Power is, I think by most people, going to be the number one consensus pick in this draft. He is a defenseman for Michigan. There's 3 Michigan prospects that are ranked in the top 10 of this draft, which is insane. But you also got to think Cam York played for Michigan, and he was one of the best defensemen on their team. So is Cam York better than the number one consensus pick this year, Owen Power? I don't know, but it feels pretty good knowing that we might have like a player that fucking good that he could have been picked first this year.
Yeah, and I mean, Cam York last year named Big Ten Defenseman of the Year and played on that, stacked Michigan D-core, which, how many Michigan D-men are on the top?
3.
End of this draft? Okay, so 3 of them, and guess what? We have the best one out of the 4, I guess.
I mean, that's awesome. That makes me happy. Only happy things from here on out for Flyers fans.
So essentially, if Cam York was a year younger, he would be the number 1 pick this year. And we got him at, 14 last year?
I think 13. I'm not sure.
We traded down to 14 because Montreal picked...
Don't remind me.
Cole Caulfield, 15 overall.
You said it. God damn it. Yeah.
At least I didn't say Goal Caulfield.
Cole Caulfield. Jesus. But yeah, I mean, Cam York, baby.
And Cam York did not look out of place in the few games he played at the end of last year. And I think the coaches got a good look at him, and I think there's a real good shot that he rounds out the
him and Braun
third pair.
Him and Braun would be real nice.
Pairing at
I
all.
like that a lot.
You get the steady defensive veteran that the coaches trust, and you put him with York, that gives York a little bit more space to be a little more dynamic, play a little more offense up the ice. He's playing third pair, so he's not going against top lines, and you build up his confidence. And if he plays a few games in the AHL to begin the year, that's not a bad thing either.
Yeah, I agree. One thing before we get into trade scenarios, I think Cam York, hopefully, I think he will play on the team, but it would be kind of sick to see him head the second power play unit this year, if that could be a possibility. I think it's time to phase Provorov out of the power play, and I think Ryan Ellis and then Cam York heading both power plays would be a pretty cool thing to watch this year. I mean,
and I've thought for a while that Sanheim should have been on that top or second power play over Provorov. They just haven't given him that chance, and I feel like just because Provorov's the minute eater and one of the top guys, that they owe it to him to put him on that power play, but he just cannot handle the puck at the top of the point. I know he scored a lot of power play goals last year, but
isn't that mostly G being really good at setting him up for a one-timer?
And JVR standing in front of the goalie.
Yeah, I mean...
and it's not even like he doesn't have a dangerous slap shot or one-timer. He does have a good wrister. I'll give him that. He has a good wrister and snapshot. But...
he can do it 5-on-5.
I don't know. He's not a great puck handler under pressure at the top of the umbrella where if you turn it over, your shot gets blocked. It's going the other way on a breakaway. You're a last man back.
Yeah, I'm almost positive that Michel Therrien is going to have Ryan Ellis heading the power play next year.
You have
I'd
to.
be surprised.
He has seniority.
I'd be surprised otherwise.
You have to, and I think because of that, you put Provorov on the second power play. But you may see York, they like to go 2 D-men on that second power play.
That is true.
So you may see a York Provi combo.
That makes the most sense.
I still think Sanheim is more offensively gifted than Provorov, but
Sanheim,
wouldn't
York.
Be mad.
Yeah, there's a lot of options
Wouldn't
opening up right now.
way.
Things are looking up for us. All right, let's move into trade scenarios. Do you have any trade scenarios or guys that you're thinking of right off the bat that we could get into?
Yeah, I mean, so kind of big news. I mean, prepping for this, we were going to talk about Jones. We were going to talk about maybe trading to acquire Dougie Hamilton's rights. I was going to bring up Ellis. I'm sure you were too. But, that's a done deal now. We don't have to – I don't think we're in on Jones or Hamilton anymore.
Fuck Dougie Hamilton.
I honestly think –
Hold on. Fuck Dougie Hamilton and fuck Seth Jones. I'm over him. We don't need him.
Yeah, but I honestly think that Ellis the whole time was the most attainable defenseman out of those 3 and still provides a ton of value.
Yeah.
But some big news that just came out today also after the Ellis trade was Frank Saravalli tweeted that St. Louis will not be protecting Vladimir Tarasenko, and he will be exposed in the expansion draft to the Kraken, and they will instead be protecting Ivan Barbashev, which I'm not really sure what the idea is there. I believe Doug Armstrong's the GM there was thinking.
So dumb. His name, I don't know.
It's Doug Armstrong.
St. Louis, I have no idea. It's just preposterous that they're doing this. Clearly, Seattle is going to take Tarasenko. Why so they're, what'd you say? They're doing it so they could keep Barbashev or whatever the fuck that guy's name is instead of him to protect him. But
I don't know what makes sense because
why didn't you just trade Tarasenko and get something for him then?
Yeah, so there has to be some sort of back-end deal going on, but it also doesn't make sense because if you're going to make a deal for them to not take Tarasenko, you could have made a deal for them to not take Barbashev for less.
Yeah.
Presumably. So I don't know if there's some sort of under-the-table 3-way draft trade scenario, but it's interesting to say the least, and it throws a little wrench in everyone's sort of expansion list in terms of who was going to get taken by the Kraken. So I mean, even more so than it was a week ago, I think people's eyes are going to be peeled on this expansion draft.
I mean, I'll say one thing. If it's not some under-the-table, sneaky trade type deal they're trying to pull off with Seattle or something not to take Tarasenko, it might be one of the dumbest moves I've seen by a GM in a long time.
Unless they know something we don't. Unless they know
they
he's
have to.
Done
they
with
physically
his injury.
have to. If they don't know something we don't, this person is one of the dumbest. This GM is one of the dumbest people alive. I'm sorry we don't know his name right now, but you are Doug Armstrong. You're a fucking idiot if you let them take Tarasenko. He's not going to listen to this podcast, but you're a fucking idiot, Doug Armstrong.
Yeah. One thing to note is I'm not sure about this, and I doubt you know either, but if you are thinking of trading for a guy, do your doctors get to take a look at him?
I think
would Philadelphia's team doctors be able to look at Tarasenko before making a trade?
Yes.
I doubt it. Yeah, they do.
I think that has to be some kind of rule, right? Or maybe it's before the trade's final, you accept the trade, then you get to do your whatever the hell they call that.
I don't know how it works though. You send your doctors out there, but unless there's something going on where they know Tarasenko's injury is bad and he's done. I know he's had multiple shoulder surgeries, and he's only had multiple because the St. Louis doctors have fucked up his shoulder in previous surgeries, and that's sort of why he's done with the team, and, the trust has been lost there, and that's why he requested a trade. But for them to give him up for nothing, there has to be something else going on. Has to.
Makes me kind of think that they know something about his injury that no one knows. He could be done.
It's quite possible. And they just want to shed the cap.
Yeah. I mean, that's a lot of salary. What's he making?
7.5?
$7.5 million right now? Yeah, that's a hefty amount.
For 2 more years.
Yeah.
But I don't know, this leaves out there's a bunch of scenarios going on here, because something Chuck Fletcher mentioned is not just, giving Seattle sweeteners, but even talking to talking to them and saying, hey, this guy's exposed. We want him. You draft him, and then we'll trade you for that guy. So maybe Tarasenko's that guy. Maybe they have some sort of weird, but that doesn't make sense because why wouldn't St. Louis just make the trade with the Flyers?
Well,
it doesn't.
Maybe
make sense,
St. Louis didn't like the offer that Chuck's offering them, but Seattle, a new team in the league's like, yeah, that's a pretty good deal. Like we'd gain a little bit for that, and that's what they're looking for right now. So like that's like a high level.
No, but St. Louis is still losing him for nothing.
I know.
Like what St. Louis?
I said it. Doug Armstrong's an idiot.
Sense.
If that's the case, he's an idiot. But like maybe the Flyers are smarter. Like no, we're not going to do that trade with you. We'll just do it with Seattle for less. Maybe Chuck's making the smart move. But I personally don't think Tarasenko is on the Flyers' radar per se. I think there's other guys that are more important for them to look at, but I could see something like that happening. I definitely wouldn't be mad if Chuck pulled something like that with Seattle to flip him after they take him.
You can't say Tarasenko's not on their radar because he listed the Flyers as a team that he waived his no move to go to. So he has to be on their radar or they're not doing their job. So like he has to be an option. They have to reach out. They have to see what St. Louis is thinking in terms of a trade because you're not doing your due diligence as a GM if you don't if a superstar player lists your team as a team he's willing to waive his no move for or no trade for. You have to, at least kick tires on him.
And Chuck's a guy, like, every time he talks to the media, he's always a guy that says that he's doing his due diligence. So, like, I'm sure, I know for a fact that he's definitely talked with St. Louis already about that. Probably talking to Seattle now, if not both.
And there's
teams
definitely risk there. I mean, there's a potential that he's not the same player he was. There's the potential that his shoulder's done and he doesn't have a shot anymore. I mean, he did score some snipes in the playoffs, so I don't know if that's true. But he has also been a heavy, two-way player, even at wing. And if you acquire him and put him on a line with G and Coots, where G and Coots are handling most of the defensive responsibility, and you can just sort of let him loose and feed him one-timers. Or feed him, breakout passes to, odd man rushes.
Could be a lot of fun.
It could be a huge payoff for this team, dude.
Oh, yeah. I would not be, I'm saying it, I would not be mad if that happened.
And we have the players, the caliber of player and salary to match Tarasenko. We have JVR, which we can trade, who's, another scoring winger, scoring, in a different fashion. He doesn't have, the elite shot. But, he puts goals in on the power play and, even strength, he gets those tips and hands plays around the net. And then you have Voracek, who's, a pass first guy, but can, still easily play first power play and, feed a lot of the players they have on St. Louis. So it's tough. Like I kind of agree with you that, not going to be mad if they don't get him, not going to be mad if they do get him, but I mean, he's another option out there for this team, and like I said earlier, I feel like we need a scoring winger in some fashion.
And he's
scoring forward.
And he's one of the only names out there that fit that bill, So
I mean, he's an elite scorer.
Yeah. Is there any other guys you're thinking of? I actually wanted to read off some of the replies we got on our tweet in regards to this. Do you want me to read them off?
Yeah, go ahead.
Ryan Tannenbaum on Twitter said that we should get a top D partner for Provy, Jones or Ellis. You were right about Ellis there, Tannenbaum. Give up Ghost, Brink, and maybe a first. So this guy, I mean...
I completely forgot about Bobby Brink.
Yeah.
What's he going to be in the AHL next year, I assume? He's going to be on the Phantoms, or does he have another year at
Wisconsin?
Denver?
Wisconsin, I think.
He's not at Wisconsin.
Are you sure? He's
at Colorado, I'm pretty sure.
University of Denver. Yeah, you might be right.
Denver.
I don't watch college hockey too much. He also said he wants a shoot first winger, Tarasenko, JVR in a second. There you go. Just talked about that. And then a backup goalie, Smith, Olmark, or Dreiger. And I think we talked about Olmark. That guy would probably be the best option, I think.
He's a big guy. He had a good save percentage on a shitty team last year, and he'll be cheap. And, Korpisalo's out there too, but I think he'll be a little bit more expensive, and I think he maybe would be looking more for a starting role.
Definitely.
But I don't hate Olmark. He always plays well against the Flyers. That's not saying much because we make backup goalies look like 5-time Vezina winners, but Yeah, I mean, there's some moves to be made there. I mean, it's going to be I'm pretty sure Seattle's going to take Drieger from Florida. I think that's been said a bunch by a lot of the pundits out there. But I think Allmark's would be a great fit. And what else did he say? So I think for he said Tarasenko, trade JVR in a second for Tarasenko.
Yeah.
I don't even think you need. I think that can be a 1-for-1. I don't think you need to throw the pick in there because we're getting damaged goods, and Tarasenko's making 7.5, and JVR's making 7. Yeah. So I mean, maybe we put in the pick and they retain a little bit of salary, but I don't know how that's going to work.
Here's the thing.
Everyone's up against the cap.
Here's the thing. Chuck could use leverage there because I feel like Tarasenko's more of a risk than JVR. You know what you're going to get with JVR. Like, he's going to be pretty consistent in what he gives you. Tarasenko, he could end up being the player he was, or he could end up being a way lesser version of that. So Chuck could use that to his advantage to be like, hey, JVR for Tarasenko straight up. You guys don't want Tarasenko. We do. And JVR is you know what you're going to get out of him, and he's only got 2 years left on his deal. It's a good 1-for-1 flip. It's a good change of pace for both teams. But after Tarasenko was left off the protection list, that raises some eyebrows, obviously, as to what's going to happen with him in the next upcoming days.
I'm honestly more interested in that than who they pick from the Flyers.
What happens with Tarasenko? I mean, it's an interesting,
how is that going to play out?
Topic. I mean,
like bold strategy, Kyle.
We are in arguably the heat of the offseason. These next 2 weeks are going to be a lot of entertainment. A lot of content's going to be coming out. Like, this is a good time for hockey fans around the world.
There are still many, many moves to be made.
This is just the beginning.
This could be a completely different roster by October 1st or whatever the hell.
We'll see. The defense is definitely going to be completely different. The offense is probably going to have 1 or 2 new guys, I would say.
I don't know, dude. If we lose Jake and JVR, I feel like the offense looks a lot different.
Well, because then that's 2 guys gone, but $13 million in room to do whatever you want with. I think we have
13 now. If we lose Jake and JVR, we'll have another 15.25.
No, because we lost a little bit with the Ellis deal. I think we have something around $8 or $9 million right now to sign Sanheim and Carter Hart with.
True.
But if we get rid of Jake and JVR, it's going to skyrocket to like closer to $20 million, depending on who we trade for. I don't know. But yeah.
Whatever. We're not mathematicians.
No.
Let's go through some other comments. Your boy Coots said the Flyers need a top pairing defenseman. You can check that one off your list, Coots. A solid veteran depth defenseman, which we talked about earlier. A third line center, a veteran for the fourth line. One thing Chuck Fletcher did mention, I think it was on his exclusive interview with the Snow the Goalie podcast, was that it hurt to lose Pitlick. And he was a fourth line guy that you don't really think about, but he was Energizer Bunny. He was playing the PK. He could, put it in the back of the net a couple times, but he was a speedy, doesn't give up sort of player, big on the forecheck, which is like Alain Vigneault's system is all about the forecheck. So I think not being able to re-sign him hurt a little bit more than people thought. So I definitely think Coots has a good point here in bringing in another guy for the fourth line, because we lost Raffle too. So like, I don't even know, what does our fourth line look like right now? NAK?
I mean, it's so tough to
NAK,
think about that.
Lajitsky, and who knows?
I mean, Knack hasn't earned third line minutes by any means.
No, he took way too many penalties this year.
Yeah, he's probably fourth
Stick
line.
penalties too.
God, that is tough, man. I mean, I think the Flyers should just sign like a veteran. Like I agree with Coots here, your boy Coots on Twitter. Get a guy that has been there before. Get a guy who's been to the Stanley Cup. Get a guy who's been deep in the playoffs, a veteran, a guy that can come in and just be like a good leader and grinder on the fourth line. Like it's an easy deal. You could be a guy like Zach Parise, who is in the later stages of his career. He's not going to really want any money. Probably just wants to go to a pretty decent team. I mean, just find a guy.
Everyone's saying Parise to the Islanders, but
that makes a lot of sense to me. He's an Islander type of guy, or the type of guy the Islanders would get.
And he played under Lou Lamoriello in New Jersey as well.
I'm trying to think of some other guys.
Elliot Friedman just tweeted, sounds like the Islanders are re-signing Andy Green to a 1-year deal for $750K plus $250K in bonuses. they had to do that because they still had to expose one defenseman, and they didn't have one to expose
So
because
they
they're protecting
So
they're protecting
signed one.
Pellick Pullock and Mayfield. So, and they didn't have any D-men who fit the NHL games played requirement. So they had to either re-sign Coburn or Andy Green, and they just re-signed Andy Green with the intent to expose him to Seattle. So
Interesting. He won't be taken, but kind of funny they had to sign a guy just to expose him.
Yeah,
He-
I mean,
he's
they
been on-
basically signed him to league minimum, but
Yeah, he's been on the team for the past couple of years. He's a big veteran on the team. I'm sure it wasn't that hard of a decision.
yeah. So I mean, looking at your boy Coots' comment, like, any ideas who you're thinking for second line D-men?
It's tough because of the salary cap situation we're in, but I don't know. I kind of like David Savard. I'm not really sure if he's gonna be the perfect guy there. Maybe Rasmus Ristolainen. If we could pull a deal with Buffalo, I wouldn't mind seeing him and Sanheim play together.
That's interesting. So a lot of the analytics people do not like Ristolainen. Apparently, he has horrible analytics, which, like, I've said it once, I've said it before. Analytics is a tool. It's not, what you should base all your decisions off of. I think, the eye test is really important. And seeing how he played against the Flyers in the 8 games we played against Buffalo, like, I would like him on our defense.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's a right-handed defenseman. He's the perfect type of player that would fit in alongside Sanheim. And yeah, like you said, analytics aren't everything. I think I remember seeing like a graphic the other day. It was the analytics of like Nathan McKinnon with a bunch of these other centers or whatever, and he was ranked so low compared to all these guys. And then you look at all the names that are there, and you're just like, Nathan McKinnon is the best player on this fucking list. Like, these analytics mean shit. I mean,
can we talk about the dude on Twitter who was comparing TK's first 2 years to McKinnon's first 2 years and being like,
that might have been
like,
it. That I might
like
be
TK
mistaken.
equals McKinnon. It's like, dude, are you the dumbest
it's like,
person
dude,
in the world?
Analytics are
Have you ever
a tool.
watched hockey?
Like, come on. The eye test is more important than anything else when it comes to hockey. Because there's things that you see in game that you're not going to see as a number on a piece of paper. Like, you're just not going to see it. These guys have hockey IQ. Like, it's kind of hard to scale hockey IQ.
Quantify that.
Yeah, exactly. Unless you make them take some crazy fucking test. I'll take your fucking test. You want me to take your test? A little miracle quote.
So
Had to do it.
you mentioned Savard, another guy who's available, maybe a little bit more expensive, Adam Larson from the Oilers.
That's a good pickup. Not too bad.
I mean, Suter's out there. I don't think he would come to the Flyers. I think he's going to take a very low salary deal to play for a contender. He's made all the money he needs to make.
Probably
he just wants a cup
Colorado.
at this point. Yeah, I could see him going to Colorado, Tampa, which I don't know how they're going to figure out their cap situation. Tyson Barrie's available. I don't know. His cap hit last year was 3.75. I think he might re-sign with the Oilers if they're inclined to do so, because he did have a good season with them. I mean, he led all D-men in points last year and didn't get one Norris vote, which was like the first time that's ever happened.
I got one. We've talked about him off pod a couple of times. The dude in Vancouver that doesn't want to play there. I always forget his name. Nate Schmidt.
So
he'd be a good fit, I think. He only makes like
he'd be good
$5
fit.
million, something around there. 5.9.
I think he makes six something, which
I mean,
is a little bit high, and I don't know if Vancouver is willing to retain salary because 5.95. All
right, so I was right. 5.9. That's not bad.
Yeah, he's a left-handed guy, but he does prefer to play the right side, so that would work with a Sanheim Schmidt second pair. I do like that. He's a little more offensively inclined.
Yeah, I mean, you
but
can't.
I think he'd be a solid fit for the team. I mean, he's a good NHL defenseman. Like, that's all you want on your second line, a good NHL defenseman.
Exactly.
Which we did not have a good NHL defenseman on our team last year.
No, we made the big move for a big name guy like Ellis, and now we just need like a good player. Just get a good player. It doesn't matter who it is. Just get a player that changes up our core a bit. Like, we had to shake up the core, and I think there would be three new names on that defensive core next year: Ryan Ellis, Cam York, and then fill in the blank for the last guy. So
Alec Martinez is another name.
There you
I
go.
think he also
He's a lefty.
plays the left side.
Yeah.
He's a lefty.
It's tough. Like, there's not that many right-handed defensemen in this league, and there's not that many that are available. So, I mean, we can't always get what we want here.
He made $4 million last year. He's probably looking for a little bit of a raise because he did play outstanding in the playoffs in the regular season last year. Just to throw some other names, you mentioned Savard, who made 4.25 last year.
Yeah.
Goligoski out of Arizona made 5.4 last year. Averages 22 minutes a night. He's sort of at the end of his career.
So that's a lot of names.
I wouldn't love that pickup.
That's a lot of names that we've mentioned so far. Which ones do you think would be your top? I'm thinking, I think Ristolainen might be like one of my top guys that I'd take there. Larson as well,
and that would have to be that would have to be a trade, right?
Correct.
He's not a UFA.
Yeah.
So what's his?
We've kind of blended in.
Hit? Is he making 4?
Yeah, we've kind of blended into the free agency discussion. But it's whatever, like trade scenarios, free agency, it all goes hand in hand. But yeah,
he's making 5.4.
Who's making 5.4?
Ristolainen, and he has 1 year left.
Okay,
on his deal.
Does Ristolainen want to play in Buffalo? Probably
no.
not.
He's out there as a trade. I mean, like they got to trade Eichel, Reinhart, and Ristolainen. I'm pretty.
Well,
sure.
I heard
like,
when it comes down to it that it would, if they traded those 3 guys, it would be Ristolainen first, Reinhart. Like, if it was a big if they trade Reinhart, I don't know if they really want to move him, and then Eichel last. So if they trade anybody, it's going to be Ristolainen first, most likely.
Also, like, one thing Ristolainen would bring to this defense is just a guy who can fucking hit and is intimidating, and you don't want to go into a corner with him. You know what I mean?
Kind of like Gudas. Like, we need a guy like that scares people.
Gudas crossed the line a couple too many times, but I mean, I still, and also the one thing that pissed me off beyond belief about Gudas is anytime he got the puck at the point, he was just sending it to the net, wide, blocked, whatever. Yeah. He's sending it to the net immediately.
Well, Ristolainen is much better defenseman than Gudas is, so we won't have to worry about that.
Going through the list of guys, I mean, Savard's a little bit too old for my liking.
He's 30.
Is he really? He just looks so much older.
Yeah, Ryan Ellis is 32. I don't think 30 is old in hockey years. I think he's still got some.
No, it's not. Just
left.
Looking at his face, I thought he was way older.
Is it because he's like bald?
Maybe. and also, when Hayes scored that OT winner in Columbus 2 years ago, and TK said "suck it, Savard."
Oh yeah.
Do you remember that?
Oh yeah. there's a picture that shows up on Twitter like every other week of that. Was it when like Lawton and Hayes were like hugging him on the bench or whatever, and he's just like screaming?
No, that's Lemieux. What's his name? Brandon Lemieux.
Oh, on the Rangers.
Was when, he was talking shit to Hayes, trying to get him to go or something, and then they skated by the bench, and I think he cross-checked Hayes or something, and then both Lawton and TK screamed at him something. The Savard one was when it was an OT winner by Hayes. He comes in, and it was Savard and Foligno back. And I think like Hayes and Provorov crisscrossed, and Savard or Foligno thought they were gonna switch, and Savard wanted Foligno to stay, and they got like mixed up, and Hayes just like skated in.
Was this when the champ was born?
Yeah, he did the championship belt
game.
After that one.
Yeah. Oh baby, that was a huge moment.
So yeah, a ton of names. I think I like Ristolainen now that you mention him. I wasn't even thinking about him, honestly.
He's a under the radar type of guy that I think would be perfect.
I think he would bring some physicality to the team, which we desperately need. A couple names we mentioned before. Jamie Alexiak, I feel like he's more of a third line guy. Ryan Murray, no thank you. Keith Yandel, no.
And we're probably missing some guys. I mean, if we're saying Ristolainen is probably would be our favorite. I'm also trying to like think. I don't think I'm gonna be able to think of one, but like I said before, a guy that's been to the Stanley Cup, a guy that's won the Stanley Cup. Like I kind of want a big name veteran on that.
Martinez
on that
would
team.
fit that role. Two-time Cup winner.
Yeah, that could work.
He scored a Stanley Cup winning goal.
He did.
Clinching goal.
I remember that.
Against the Rangers.
I was with my friend.
That's
He's a Rangers fan too. It was hilarious.
That's one of my favorite pictures to send to Rangers fans is Hank like face down in the crease and all the Kings players celebrating all their gloves and equipment on the ground.
You can't do that because they're just going to send an even worse picture back to you of fucking Patrick Kane. Like that picture literally gives me fucking nightmares. I see it on TV every so often and I close my eyes.
Yeah. There's also the one of Hank where like he got pulled for the first time and he's like crying on the bench. That's a good one. With his little white gloves on that he wears underneath.
I like Hank though. I don't like making fun of him, but that is funny.
I like him now, but like when there was a
big rivalry,
good stretch of years there where we could not score against that guy.
Yeah, that's why they call him the King. All right.
Yeah,
let's move into.
I mean, I think that kind of wraps up free agency. We went through a lot of names there. Yeah. We didn't mention Philip Deneau as a possible third line center. He apparently could not come to a deal with Montreal, and at this time, they're probably going to let him go to free agency. That doesn't mean that they won't, offer him something once he goes to market.
He's a guy that I would really want on this team, though.
I think he would really solidify the middle of the ice. A lot of people I read on Twitter, a lot of people were saying, we don't need another slow defensive center who doesn't score. We already have Hayes and Coots. They were also saying, do a one, put Deneau on the third line. I think he would make more sense on the second line and put Hayes on the third. But also, like, their centers, they have to play 200. They have to play 200 feet of ice. They should be defensive, and you surround them with scoring wingers.
Yeah, I mean, if we got him, it'd be Coots, Hayes, and him, and then also you got Lawton and G who can both play center. That's arguably one of the best down the middle teams in the league. Like it's up there with the guys that Tampa has, the guys that like I don't know. I can't think of another fucking team other than Tampa because they're too fucking good. Like it's up there. Like that's a very good like center lineup. Like not many teams have that many guys of that caliber,
Another guy who's possibly going to be available, we'd have to get him to take a pay cut compared to his last contract, but David Krejci. He may not, he's 35. I think he still has a lot in him, though, and he may not re-sign with the Bruins.
So like a 2-3 year deal for him?
Yeah, throw him on the third line.
Second, third, like I like that.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I think it'd be more interesting for Chuck to throw a bone on an older guy that they could get on a pretty decent deal for only a couple years than try to throw money at a bigger name. I mean, I think I'd rather have Denault over Krejci, but if you can get Krejci for less and only sign him to a 2-year deal, why wouldn't you? Like, what you're going to get. He's going to be a pretty good player for your team. And I think Denault's a lot younger, and he's probably going to require more money.
Yeah, you'd rather have Denault because he's 28 compared to 35.
But we have so many prospects that, like, I kind of rather have Krejci at that point because, like, Krejci will come in here, then he'll get phased out in a couple of years. It's kind of a smarter move when it comes to building our team.
Yeah. I mean, you also have to see what's going to happen with Morgan Frost. Is he going to get a chance to, start the year as 3C?
Probably.
They can always fall back and put Lawton in that role. I like Lawton better at wing. I think it gives him more
Me too.
Like offensive options.
The thing that sucks is like I don't know like what I want. Like I want to give Frost a chance, but then I also want to just like get another center. I think ultimately Frost probably will get the chance. I think it's probably leaning that way. I think we probably made our biggest move of the offseason, but I don't know. I don't know what I want. I mean, it's not up to me though, so it's like whatever. I'm just viewing what's happening, but it's tough. I'm not really sure what the move will be, but either way, seeing Morgan Frost get his chance to play on the third line would be fun. Or if we get a center to fill that void, will also be cool. So, yeah,
I just wanted to. There were some other comments on our tweet of what the Flyers needed and were giving up to get him. At Evil Bill 6900 said a 40-year-old Ed Snyder. That was just funny. I just wanted to mention that because it was funny.
If only. I miss Ed. R.I.P.
Yeah. And then at AWIII75, now this tweet kind of confused me because he says JVR Seattle and then ghost plus mid prospect to Seattle for expansion draft selection forward. So I think that means he wants
the Flyers
Seattle to take JVR and then he wants the Flyers to trade ghost and a mid-level prospect to Seattle to acquire another forward that they selected from a different team, which is
okay.
And we talked about that possibility. I think that's giving up way too much to Seattle, but
yeah.
Then he said Jake and TK for Gaudreau and Monahan. I just don't think that's going to happen.
I don't think that's a smart move for the Flyers.
I don't think giving up TK one for one for Gaudreau or Monahan is a bad idea. I think so.
Yeah, I mean, that's a horrible idea. I think TK is getting a bad rap right now. A lot of people throw him in trade negotiations just because, like, maybe he had a not so great year, even though numbers wise he was still doing exactly what he's been doing since he got here. Yeah. But I don't agree with the negative backlash that TK is getting, and I get that people are throwing him in trades just because, like, his contract is something that other teams would value. So, like, it makes sense to include him in trades, but I just don't think it's smart to get rid of a guy that's been getting 20, 25 goals every single year since he came into the league. There's no point. He's a great player.
I mean, he's
still got room to grow.
The same people that are saying that were people who were loving him last season.
Probably. I mean, Flyers fans are they're the most bipolar people in the
Hypocrites.
world. Like one day they'll be in love with a player, the other day they'll hate him. One day they'll fucking love Chuck. They're like, every single day leading up to this fucking trade, people are like, "Where's the trades? Where's the trades?" And then now they're calling Chuck Fletcher a god. Like, we're a very bipolar fan base. Like, it's best if you're a Flyers player to ignore social media altogether, I think, and the media. You know,
and everyone stop with the trade for Gaudreau because he's a UFA next year, and it's been rumored for a long time that he wants to play for the Flyers. He grew up a Flyers fan and grew up in South Jersey. So why are we giving up assets for him when he's not something the team needs right now, and we could potentially sign him without giving up assets next year? And Monahan we could do without. I mean, I guess he would fit that third line center role, but we talked about that last episode.
Yeah.
This guy continues to go on, which ridiculous. Coots, Frost, Oscar, and a goalie prospect for Eichel.
Nope.
I don't think they would take that deal.
Nope.
Buffalo, they want young guys. They're rebuilding. They don't need Coots.
I mean, I would want Coots if I was them.
I'd probably want Coots too, but they don't have to get rid of Eichel.
Yeah. I don't think they really should. I don't understand
Unless he sits
it.
out.
I just don't understand it. I think he's so done with them as a team that they kind of have to get rid of him.
Oh, they're also not letting teams look at his medicals. So that's
so
a huge
sketchy.
risk with his and neck injuries are not a thing to, joke about.
Of course not.
This guy goes on. There's more. Myers or Sanheim, a first, and Legzinski for Seth Jones. That wasn't going to happen. Look at what they're asking for from Chicago. And then he says, and this is also like a full team overhaul, dude. You're like, first of all, like I love this. I love Flyers fans because they're like, take our underperforming players for your good players. Like, yeah, like GMs are not stupid. You know what I mean? Like, we can't just get rid of all of our bad players and then force other players to come here who don't want to come here.
Yeah, it's just not going to happen. I mean,
it's just not going to happen.
You got to think logically.
Then he says, look at Dougie, Corey Perry, Granlund, Sutter, Bernier, Vatanen, Jalmerson in free agency. Corey Perry, great fourth line.
That's the guy. Like, we were thinking about that when on Coots' tweet.
Fourth line
player. Perfect. Did you see how much he did for Montreal this postseason? That's the exact kind of guy I want on my team.
Did the same thing for Dallas the year before. Back-to-back cup appearances too, so that'd be nice.
And I've hated Corey Perry for most of his career because he's such a dickhead. I mean,
he's the worm.
But if he's on my team, he's our dickhead, so I will love him.
I mean, that's how it goes with every dickhead in the league.
Yep.
Tom Wilson, Brad Marchand,
Wayne Simmons.
You only hate him because he's not on your team.
Exactly. All right, let's roll into post game. That was a pretty good discussion on trades and free agency. Do you got anything for post game? Got any topics we haven't glossed over?
I mean, we went over so much.
We did went over so much. We got to start getting you guys to ask some questions. I think maybe for the third episode we'll, field questions from you guys on Twitter and anything you guys want to know. Our next episode is going to be coming out 2 weeks after this one, so it's going to be a lot of stuff that happens. Free agency will have come and gone pretty much, so after all of that happens, I'm sure there'll be a lot more to talk about.
Yeah, I mean, I had some things just to throw in that I just thought of. So I was listening to Dropping the Gloves, which is John Scott's podcast with hockeyfights.com. And he was asked, I think it was like maybe a fan mail-in question or something, but he was asked what the worst chirp he's ever gotten. And it was G. It was Giroux. I think he was, I don't remember who he was playing for at the time. But apparently G was skating by the bench and not even saying this to John Scott, but saying it to his coach and being like, when are you going to put Scott in? Like, throw him on the ice. Like, throw Johnny in. Like, every shift. Just trying to get John Scott on the ice, saying essentially our team is better when he's on the ice and we will score on you. And he said it was just one of like not even like a very clever chirp or anything like that, but it just like hurt. You know what I mean?
Just cuts deep.
And
you know,
and there's nothing you can say because he's like, I didn't even turn around and look at my coach because the coach knows it's true too.
Yeah, I probably just would have sat there and like stared at my fucking skates or something, not even put my head up, and been like, God damn it, this fucking guy. He's just cutting right to my soul right there with that comment.
Yeah. Just, I think the exact quote was, "Hey, put Big John out. We need a goal." Like, imagine a guy just skating by your bench saying that every time, and not even talking to you. Like, he's not. You're irrelevant to the conversation.
You're so irrelevant. You're so irrelevant. I'm not even directing this comment towards you. I mean, that G is fucking amazing. That is hilarious.
Yeah.
Best chirper in the league. Best player in the league as well. If you didn't know,
he was at one point.
Yep. All right. I think that's it for this episode.
All right. That wraps up this episode of Tie My Skates. Please like, comment, and follow on Twitter and Instagram at Tie My Skates Pod, and listen anywhere you get your podcasts. I'm Z. He's Drunk Eddie. See you guys next time.